All right. So our goals here, foster community to share and help each other, entertain and inform with our weekly meetings, and of course, our classes, which are coming up fast. We have a number of different classes. If you buy 10 of them, you get 2 free. So go to our website, check that out. And you can find all this information on our website, naplesmug.com, as well as if you have any questions, feel free to go to our Groups IO. Everyone is a member of Groups IO. All they have to do is just log in, and then they'll be able to ask and maybe help someone else out. Anyone can sign up on our website, naplesmug.com. And I have a few announcements here. Our video from our meeting from last week is on YouTube. So if you want to learn about window management and how Moom works, I've been playing around with it and I really like it. Take a look at our video on YouTube. And of course, class registration, I already mentioned this, but class registration is open. Register for 10 classes. You get 2 additional classes for free. It is going to, you're going to be included with any PDFs, recordings. If any of the classes have a Take Control, some of our classes are by authors from Take Control. You're going to get the book. So there's more to it than just the videos. Of course, you're going to get a lot of information through the videos, but you're also going to get some other information as well. So sign up. It's all done online. Eckert, you have anything that you'd like to add?
Just a few things. I think you said most of it, but I also would like to say to our membership that this year, 2022, has been an outstanding year. We had a significant growth in our membership, and I also believe, even more importantly, we have really great satisfaction among our members, and they are very happy to belong to our organization. Again, it was a fantastic year. It's sad that it will end soon, but we have a joyous few weeks ahead of us. We have Christmas and we have the new year, and we'll have a splendid new year. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in a couple of weeks, or in 3 weeks, when we have our first meeting in the new year. So take good care of yourselves, and thank you for being part of our great organization. Thank you.
Thanks, Eckert. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, Eckert, everyone keep an eye on their email, because you're going to get all new meeting IDs. Is that correct? For next year, for the meetings?
I will have to create a new Zoom ID for the next year, which will be valid for the entire year. Yep. But I don't want to send it out too early, because you may put it on the Christmas, under the Christmas tree somehow and lose it. So I will send it to you in time, so that you have a few days before that we have the first meeting in the new year. Okay. And I will send out the invitation in such a way that you can import it to your computer, to your device, and make it part of your calendar. And then only click every Wednesday at 11:30, click on it, and you will be associated with our meetings. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So watch out for that. Sheeta, would you like to add anything?
I want to say happy holidays to everyone, and please be safe, be well, stay warm, and we look forward to seeing you next year with our meetings and our classes. That's it.
All right. Today is going to be yours truly, and what I'm going to be talking about is working with images. Now, I'm not going to be talking about photos specifically, the Photos app. I'm not going to be talking about the Preview app specifically. This is going to be what I call a smorgasbord of, just little tips. We all have 20 million pictures. How can we easily find those? How can we compress them if we want to send them to someone? Different tips like that. How do we crop them? I want to send it to someone on an iPhone. We all know that everybody views their iPhone vertically. So how can I turn it into a vertical thing? So it's all these little tips that we can use with photos. So it's not going to be on a specific app. It's just going to be in general how we can work with our photos and even share them. So we want to find our photos, and we have 30,000 photos. And if I go into my Photos app here, you're going to see that I can add a title in here. But we don't do that, especially when you, like I said, you go to a birthday party and you take 50 photos, that kind of thing. So what do you do? How can you find photos? Like in my case, on my personal library, I have over 35,000 photos. Well, this little trick is one that my brother told me about. And it was something that Apple had for a while, and then they removed it for a couple of years, and then they added it back in. And it is called Places. With Places, what you're able to do is easily find your photos by location. I know that the way that my mind works is I don't remember what year we went to a specific place, but I can remember where we went. So if I wanted to find a photo on a specific location, what I do is I go over to Places here. And now when I drill down in here, let's go to Cape Canaveral. I don't remember what year I went to Cape Canaveral, but here are all the photos from Cape Canaveral. And from here, as well as Walt Disney World, from here, I'm able to actually see the date. So this is my favorite way of finding photos. And right now, if I look at my photos, you're going to see I have 4 photos from New Orleans, 23 from the Smoky Mountains, 14 from Key West. And when I zoom in here, now I'm just looking at these from Florida. And if I just click on any one of them, now it's going to show me just those photos. So I'm not going to see the photos from New Orleans. I'm not going to see the photos from Smoky Mountains. So this is also a way of filtering down. Maybe I don't want to see the ones from the cruise that we went on. Well, all I have to do is just zoom in here. Well, all I want to see are the ones from Orlando. I don't care what year. I go there multiple times. You try to go there at least once a year. I love Disney. So what I can do is I can go in here, and now I'm only looking at the photos from that particular. If I go to click on it, I'm only looking at those photos from that specific location. So that is probably my favorite way of finding photos. Now, you can also use faces to find photos, and this works pretty good. If you go over to people here, what you're able to do is find all the photos for a specific person. So when I go to Beth here, these are all the photos with Beth. Now, as I add more photos, what'll happen is the Photos app will get better at recognizing Beth. And you can go down here and confirm additional photos. So when I click on confirm, doesn't appear to be any additional photos. I haven't added any lately. But the more photos you add, the better it is. I just use this trick. So we have a niece who lives in DC area, and I'm the resident photographer. I'm the one who always takes all the photos. And what she wanted to do for her family was get a bunch of photos of her and her brother through the years. So, and I have all those photos. Not saying that her parents don't. It's not anything like that. It's just that they know that they can go to me, and I can easily just click on, when I go to people, I just click on Richard, and there's all the photos for Richard. And I put them into a shared library, and then she was able to access them. I'll talk about shared libraries in a minute. And then I wanted to do the same thing for Anna. So I went and found all the photos for Anna, or the Photos app went and found all the photos for Anna. And then I was able to just drag those. So I just, like with Beth here, show more. What I can do is I can just take these and drag them into a shared album. And then Beth would have access to them. So now she had access to about 100 photos that I had of the two of them. And then she can put them into a collage for her parents or something like that. So between people and places, those are my favorite ways to find a photo. Now, in addition to that, the Photos app also does do categorization and keywords. And, you can also add your own keywords, but I doubt that a lot of people do that. The Photos app does a pretty good job. So what I'm able to do is go up to search here, and I can go Disney, and you're going to see that it has a number of different results here that I can go to. So I can just click on any one of these. Here's from Walt Disney World. These are from Hollywood Studios, and I didn't label these. The Photos app is doing this by location because I take all my photos with an iPhone. Huge advantage to taking your photos with an iPhone. Granted, it's not a digital SLR, but we all know that's pretty darn good. And it does add the GPS in there automatically. So let's say I wanted to find all the ones from Key West. I can actually just type in here Key West and it comes back with 2 different Key West or the Florida Keys. And we can actually see all the results here.
Charles Anthony has a good question for you right now. Charles, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. If somebody shares photos with me and I save them in the Photos app, will it recognize those places and faces for that matter if they've included that in their data?
What do you mean? Does it include the metadata?
Right,
basically?
exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's a good question. And I'm going to say it doesn't, if my recollection is right, because Apple doesn't share that metadata automatically. Let's go to shared albums here. And is anyone sharing here's Disney. And if I go, it does have that information in there when I go and do a get info on it. So you can see it's downloading the photos. So it is in there. It looks like it is in there. Now, when you use a shared album, it is a lower res. So it's not the high.
Okay. When you share that way, but if somebody actually let's say
if they send you, yes, it's the actual photo. So if they airdrop it to you, or if you use the shared library, the new shared library, it will absolutely send keeps all the information in there.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let's that is on my list actually about sharing photos. So let's segue into that. If you want to share photos, there are a number of different ways that you can share your photos. And really this works with files, but we're talking about photos here. When you're in the Photos app, probably the easiest way is just by creating a shared album. And the way that we do that, really simple, is I just go and select my photos. This is probably the easiest way. So I'm just going through and selecting my photos here. Let's try that again. There we go. And then under File, you're going to see New Album with Selection. Oops, that puts it into my album. And that's not it. No. All right, I thought I could share it. Sorry, scrap that. We click on the plus here next to shared albums. When I click on the plus, I can create a new album. So let's just call this favorite photos. I invite the people. They do have to have iCloud accounts. So I'm just going to go with Beth and let's go with Abigail. I can put a comment in here and then I just click on create. And now I have my favorite photos. Now what I need to do is I need to add the photos to that. So what I do is I just select my photos in here. And I drag them to my favorite photos. It is now going to put them in there, or I can click on add photos here. Cancel. Didn't do it. Yeah, there they are. Takes a minute. So, I put a video in there. That's why it took so long. Let's take that video out. That removes it. So now those are in the shared photo, and Abigail can now subscribe to it. So how does it work with Abigail? How does she get these photos? Well, I'm going to switch over to my other account here, to Abigail's. And when I open up photos, what she's going to see here is her shared albums. And then what she's able to do is view all of the photos. She's going to get an invitation to it. She accepts that invitation, and they're going to be in here. As I mentioned, they are not going to be the high-res versions. They're going to look good, but they're not the high-res versions. Apple does compress these for shared photos, for shared albums. Now, when you do, yeah.
Alan has a question for you. Alan, can you ask your question?
Yes, I have a daughter who doesn't have Apple equipment. She has, the old PC and Android phone. Can she share? Can I share photos with her in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you can do when you put these photos in here, it puts them into iCloud. So you are going to need an iCloud account for this to work. And I'm going to tell you, for the people that have the 5 gigabyte, buck it up and pay the 99 cents to get a larger, because it's too much work to try to sit there and manage your space. Just pay the 99 cents. Then what you're able to do with these photos, it puts it into iCloud. And if you want to manage this album, what you do is you go up to the top here. So this is the album that I created. And you're going to see here, public website. All I have to do is just check this. And what it's going to do is create a public website, and then you can share that link. So you can see we have the link here. Anybody that has this link is going to be able to view the photos. So if I click on this, you can see it's opening up in Safari. So if they were on a PC, if they were on an Android or anything like that, all they have to do is just open up a browser and they're going to be able to see those photos. They can click on it too. So,
Thank you.
when you set up a shared albums are really a great way to share an album, especially with other people that you want to, have them contribute. So maybe you're at that birthday party. I'm at a birthday party with my sister. Maybe it's for one of her kids, and she takes some photos. I take some photos. What I can do is I can set it to where she can also post photos to this album. So it's a collective effort, kind of thing. It's not only my photos. It is anyone that has joined this album. They'll be able to contribute to it as well. If you don't want that, you can turn this off, and then it's just going to be a one-way street. I would call it a one-way street.
Right.
So,
Jerry Schultz has a very good question. Jerry, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Can you password protect that? So if you just make it public, of course, anybody can, yes, they have to have the URL, but it still is shareable in a way that it wouldn't be shareable if you had password protection.
no, there's not a way to password protect it. All you can do is just turn it on and turn it off. So, yeah, it's a pretty scrambled. You can see here, it's pretty scrambled, but yeah, if someone were to share it with someone else, the only thing you can do is just delete it and start over, and create a new link for it.
All right. Quick question from Chris Wilder. Chris Wilder, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Dan. I'm always puzzled. You say you've got 35,000 photos on your Mac. Where are they?
They're in iCloud.
Are they in the iCloud that is the synchronization iCloud?
Yes.
So if you delete one, they delete, or have you got them physically stored somewhere remotely?
My process for organizing photos, and I've kind of failed at this recently, but my process for photos is photos crash there. Whoops. When I take photos, usually if I'm on a trip or something like that, what I will do is I will go through them one by one on my iPad or my computer. I have found out that when I view my photos on my, when I view my photos on my iPhone, my eyes are not good enough, and all of a sudden be like, this photo looks great. And then I'll look at it on the computer. I'm like, ooh, it's not that great. So I don't go through my photos to save them or view them or whatever on my iPhone. But basically, this is what I do. So here's a trip that I went on. This looks like a good photo. What I will do is I will favorite it by clicking on the little heart here. And then I go like, oh, that one's looks a little crooked. And I might have a few of them that are, like here's two of them that are. So this is what I do. I'm just using the arrow key, going back and forth, and that one's a little too close. So I like this one. I will favorite it. And generally what I do is I just delete this one right away. So now I don't have, a lot of, it's a way to get rid of a lot of the photos that you don't need. Because we know at a birthday party, again, we take 50 photos, probably 10 of them are good, it's way too easy to take too many photos these days. So you really need to have a routine to whittle that down. And this is my reject and accept, the heart. So now let's say I wanted to share my photos from a trip. This was in Key West. And instead of going at my library here and then just showing everyone, you know, the same photos over and over and over again, you know, kind of thing. Oh, that's the one that I wanted. You know, people don't want to see that. They don't want to go through all of your photos. You don't want to go through, you know, when someone shows you your photos, just put yourself into their position. So what you do is you go over to your favorites, because that's what I did, is I favorited my favorite ones. Now what I'm able to do is say, these are my favorite photos. And there might be 5 of them. That's all really people want to get is a snapshot. And at least in my mind, that's what they want to do, is get a snapshot of your trip or the birthday party. They don't want to see all 50 of them. They want to see 10 of them. So if you favorite them, it's a way that you can easily share or show your photos. You could put these into an album at some point now. So I could actually just go and take all these. And Sheeta mentioned a great thing. When you select multiple photos, use the command key and you can selectively, you know, I have this one selected, this one, and being that I held the command key, I did not select these 2. But basically what I'm able to do now is take these and add these to a shared album. Not all of my photos, but my favorite photos from that particular trip or whatever. So it's kind of a routine that you need to get into, to be honest with you. But it works really well for me. It's the accept and reject kind of thing. I just use the heart to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Thanks a lot.
All right. So let's look at cropping photos. So when you are looking at a photo, let's just go to this photo here. And we all know that when we share a photo with someone, what happens is they look at it on their iPhone. And when they look at it on their iPhone, guess how they're looking at it? You know, it's not like people, all they have to do is rotate, but we all know we don't do it. I don't do it half the time, you know, and I'm the one who really likes to shoot in landscape. I'm old school. We shoot in portrait. So if I have a photo that was not shot in portrait, how can I convert this into an iPhone friendly way? You know, most people look at it on their iPhone, but you know, it just happens to be. So when you go into edit here, and then you go over to crop, you can do just drag this and crop it, but wait, which is that the right aspect ratio? Is this the right aspect ratio? How do I do this? Well, if we go over to the right here, what you're going to see is different aspect ratios. So now what I'm able to do is change this to 16:9, and then I want to put it into a vertical. Now what I can do is I can drag this, and now I got a nice vertical. If someone were to see that on an iPhone, it'd be all set. I just click on done, and now they're going to be able to look at that, and they'll get the iPhone kind of perspective from it. When you do these crops and photos, the beauty of photos is it is non-destructive. So if I wanted to go back and be like, well, I really don't like that, you can revert this back to the original. Photos does quite a bit, and we're going to have a class on photos. So if you want to learn more about photos, check out the class. Photos is more than, it's not Lightroom, don't get me wrong, but for basic stuff, you can do quite a bit. And like say, this is one key here, it's non-destructive editing. So cropping in the Photos app is really, really simple to get to different aspect ratios. You want to put it on Instagram. Instagram is square. By default, when you post anything to Instagram, it's going to be square. Well, when we look at these photos here, they're not necessarily square. So what you can do is go back to your crop, and I want to make it square. And now I'm able to position this for Instagram. Click on done. I could share this to Instagram. I can export this out in the cropped format. So all I have to do is just go to export. I don't want to do the unmodified. The unmodified is going to be the original photo. I want to go with this cropped one, and I'm going to go with the JPEG. And now let's put it on my desktop. What I have here is that square photo. So photos works really, really good for that kind of thing. The last thing I want to show you in the Photos app, and then we're going to get out of the Photos app, is live photos. We're probably all familiar with live photos, and a lot of people use live photos. Let's go here. A lot of people will use live photos to do something like this. They can create a long exposure with waterfalls. Well, you can do more than that with it. What you can also do is try to catch the right shot when someone's moving. As an example, I have Beth here. She's a Dutch dancer. We have a Tulip Time Festival here in Holland. And when you look at this, this is a live photo and it's her kicking. So let's try it again here. Live, there it is. And there she goes kicking. So that's a live photo. I didn't take a video. It's just, and it's just taken 3 seconds of whatever, video, photos, however it works. And what I'd like to do, I don't want to make this loop. I don't want to make this a long exposure. What I want to do is I want to get the right spot where she is kicking, where her wooden shoe is, up in the air. So how can I do that? Well, when you shoot in live photo, what you can do is you can choose what frame you want to use. So if I go into edit here, and then you're going to see, being that this is a live photo, down at the bottom, what I'm able to do is select my frame. Here are all the different frames. So essentially what I do is I just go, find the right frame. So it looks like that one. That's the one that I want to, where she's kicking her heel up. I go and make this my key photo. All right, so now that's my key photo, but it's still a live photo. So when someone swipes through it on their iPhone, or you swipe through it on your iPhone, you're going to get that movement. I don't want that. I just want it to be a photo. I used live photo just to get the right frame. Well, what you can do is you can turn a live photo off. So now what I do is I go over to the right here, and you're going to see this little icon, the live photo icon. When I click on that, basically it turns live photo off, and now this is a standard photo. I could tap and hold on it. I can click on it. It is not going to show me her kicking or anything like that. All it is a photo. So live photos can be used more than just capturing long exposures and where people loop and bounce and all that kind of stuff. You can use live photos to capture that perfect moment. In this case, there's no way that I'd be able to capture this heel. You can do it in bursts as well, but live photo works really good for something like this. All I have to do is take the photo, and then I can select the frame. So.
All right, we have a series of questions here. Ed Adams, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be asking one. I'm sorry.
Ed Adams, not Ed Evans, Ed Adams.
Okay, I'll get out of here.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a long-term photographer, and I've got 550,000 things in Apple Photos. And
Yikes! Wow, impressive.
Well, I was a pro, and I've got about 1.2 million other images. Biggest problem is my family wants to share my entire library that's on iPhoto or on Photos. And the problem happens there. To do that is I have to put everything into iCloud, and the cost for that amount of data is way out of line.
Yeah.
And so I've tried Google Photos, and then they went away. I've been using Amazon Photos because we're on an Amazon Prime thing. With the latest versions of the operating system, they've come up with another shared library, but it looks again like I have to put everything into iCloud.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Amazon Photos. I just use iCloud.
Again, there is a new feature inside Apple.
Thing for the shared library.
Shared libraries.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, that's on my list. I'll go over that.
You have to put everything into.
No, you don't have to put everything into it. So let's get a couple questions, and then I'll just go right into that. so then
Super,
I can
thank
show you
you.
how that works. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. Any other, you said a couple more, Sheeta?
Yes, sorry, I muted myself. Sorry. Billy McKee, you have a question about Raw? Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thanks for this, Dan. You did mention, one of the things you highlighted was a series of photos to share, but they were all raw. What happens at the other end if you try and share raw? Because they're big files, they're not formatted. So what does it look like down the line if you do that?
Well, if they're on an iPhone or an Apple device, the Apple can that's a DNG files, I think is what they call it, and basically they'll still be able to view it. But I would not recommend. Raw files are large. They're not the 48 megapixel large, but they're still quite large, and if you can, what I would do is I would recommend sharing the JPEG.
Yeah, that's what I thought I normally do, we share JPEG. But if you share RAW, does it compress the RAW?
That's a good question. Honestly, I don't have an answer for you. If you were to put that into a shared album, that's because RAW, you really don't want to compress. Sorry, I don't have an answer for you on that one.
I'll find it. Move on. We'll find it again.
Okay.
I'm not raw and me. I kind of play around with it, but I don't, I'm not a professional photographer. I'm a curious photographer. So.
Okay. Hank Humphrey, please ask your question. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
If you take a picture, sometimes by mistake, in HDR, and you have movement, just a little bit of movement in the picture, are they shared with movement, or are they shared? Does sharing pick one place in the movement?
So the reason why with HDR, the reason why you might get movement is what the iPhone is doing is it's taking a series of photos. It could take 10, 12 photos.
Yes.
And
yes.
so it's into the photo. So if there's a little bit of fuzziness in there, it's in the photo. It's not like a live photo where you can go and select which one you want. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, you're taking 3, 4, maybe 10 pictures and it shows movement. Are you sharing all of those 10, or are you sharing something that? Okay,
yes, you're sharing, right? Well, it with HDR. So if it's not a live photo, it's taking all those and putting it into one. So it's going to share the one photo. It doesn't keep all those.
I got it. Okay, thanks. Yep.
Okay, Gerald Gifford, you have an interesting question. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Are the things you're talking about today related to photos in Ventura only?
No.
Okay. You are covering some Ventura things though, right?
Yeah, I'm using macOS Ventura on this computer. In all honesty, everything that I've showed you so far, you can use on the iPad and the iPhone as well.
Thank you.
They are, yep. So that's why I say photos is really pretty good. It's not Lightroom. Sheeta will absolutely attest to that. It's not Lightroom, but for general use, it really is good. So.
All right. Ghazi, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. I lately have taken some pictures with my iPhone, and I wanted to transfer them or find them on my computer, and I couldn't find them because I want to share them with some friends. Do they automatically transfer or what?
So what you'll need to do is go to your Photos settings or preferences. I'm using Ventura, so it's called settings now. And under iCloud, you want to make sure they have iCloud Photos on. Now, this will all happen in the background. So if I take a photo with my phone, it'll automatically show up on my computer. But the question is, when does it show up on my computer? That depends on if you're on a Wi-Fi. The iPhone is not going to transfer photos if it's not on Wi-Fi. And in a lot of cases, it might actually be that it has to be plugged in. It has to have a good charge. They want to conserve battery life. So if you're at 50% charge, It's not going to transfer those photos. So if you want to make sure that your photos are being transferred to your Mac, make sure you're on Wi-Fi, and your Mac is on Wi-Fi, of course. And then also make sure that your phone is plugged in. Plug in your phone. That's when it starts syncing. If it's not plugged in, there's a good chance it won't sync.
Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is a question from Jane Wood. I don't know if you'll be able to do this, but I'll let Jane ask her question. Jane Wood, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thanks. Yeah, Dan, you had mentioned that a lot of people, oh my gosh, you know my question. Because
I can see it in the chat.
Yes, I mean, you showed that picture and you said a lot of people use live to, I guess, do you call that a longer exposure?
Yeah.
I just wondered, like, how does that work?
Okay, so this photo was taken with let's see here. Let's just go with live and long exposure. Live. Let me find, that's not the right one, because that's the let's go to this one. And I go to edit. Hold on here. I got to find the right. Okay. So this photo is taken. Here's the live photo. Oops, not the live photo, but here's the photo. It's basically just, a waterfall over in the Smoky Mountains, and it's looping. It's a live photo. You can go down in here and say, I want it to bounce. We've all seen kids basically do this, or they'll have it bounce back and forth and all that. But you're going to see one. There it goes.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But that can get annoying real quick, just as a side note. But you're going to see one here that's called long exposure. So what it'll do is when you tap on that, we can see any movement. Works great for waterfalls. If someone's running, sometimes everything else has to be perfectly still. If you go and look at these people, this is my family, you can see that's maybe a little bit blurred because they're moving. I didn't say, hey, everyone up there, sit still. But it's in the background, pretty much everyone's kind of looking at the waterfall here. But you can do this with that live photo. You can do that with any live photo. So it works great for waterfalls, fountains, anything like that where you want to have that nice wispy kind of thing. Just make sure you have a lot of light. It doesn't work good in low light. Live photos don't generally, and you need to hold your camera still. The more still you can keep it, the better the photo is going to be. So
wonderful. Thank you.
All right, Dan, you can
continue.
Jane, you had something else?
No, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jane. All right, Dan, all yours.
All right. So let's talk about shared libraries. This was introduced in iPadOS 16, iOS 16, and macOS Ventura. And again, we're going to have a class on this, so there's probably going to be more details. So I'm just going to give you the down and dirty version of how this works once you enable it. So when we are looking at my library here, what you're going to see is some of these photos have a little icon in there in the upper right-hand corner. This one does not. This one does. Well, this one does not. What this is doing is this is telling me which library it is. With macOS Ventura and iPadOS 16, blah, blah, blah. What we are able to do is create two different libraries, and we can move photos back and forth between those. So in my case, I have 35,000 photos. I just turned on this feature for my wife. We went to the Dezwan, our windmill here in Holland, has a LED light show and all that. So I wanted to share a few photos with her. So what I did is I turned on shared library, and now when she subscribed to it, basically what she is able to do, or what I'm able to do, is move this photo here into that shared library, and then she's going to see the full version of it. It's not a compressed version. It's a shared library, which means that she's going to be able to delete it. So you have to be a little careful. It is a full-blown library. But what you're able to do, you're going to see up here, I have both libraries. What you're able to do is switch between those. So I want to look at my personal library. I just go over here. There's my personal library. I want to look at my shared library. Now I'm looking at my shared library. I would like to move this photo here. This is in Durango. I would like to move that over to my shared library. Is that my personal library right now? So essentially, where is it? See, I don't even, there should be a spot in here where I can move it. There's going to be a button in here. I don't see it. But basically, this is why I need to watch that class as well. But basically what you're going to be able to do is move those photos. You can do it really easy on the, this is a brand new installation of Ventura, so I haven't really debugged it. But let's go over to my iPad here. And I have it enabled on here. So I go to Photos. And you're going to see, again, I have the little silhouette in the corner of the photos. If I want to move this photo to the shared library, now whoever subscribes to that shared library is going to be able to view that photo. They're going to be able to delete the photo. They're going to be able to make edits to the photo. It's a full-blown shared library. And you can, I think you can share up to 5 people, share it with up to 5 people, and you do this through the settings app. This is all done through the Photos settings. So you have to go to the settings app and go to Photos, and then that's how you set it up. So, but hopefully that answers your question. Shared library is basically, in its most simplistic, it's awesome. It's 2 different libraries, and you can move photos back and forth. When you go to your camera, if I open up my iPhone here, let's see here, phone, there it is. And I go to my camera, there's my computer. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner here, I can choose which library I want to. So if right now, if I take this photo, it's going to go into my personal library. Now it's going to go into my shared library. So we can even choose which library it goes to when we're taking our photo.
David Winograd, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? David. David's question is, if a shared library, go ahead, he's there now.
Yeah.
You have a very, David, we cannot understand you. David, stop for a second, please. We can't understand you at all. Your audio is awful. I'm going to read your question. Can you please mute your mic? Thank you. If a shared library transfers a smaller version, how does it get back to full resolution when moving it to a destination personal library?
Simple answer. It doesn't make a smaller version. It is the full-blown version. It doesn't compress anything. So when you're doing a shared library, if let's just say you have a library that is 100 gigabytes and you split it right out in half, 50% of it is in the shared, 50% of it is in the personal library. Well, for some simple terms here, 50 gigabytes is going to be in the shared, 50 gigabytes is going to be in the personal. It does not compress them. It doesn't make them any smaller, and it doesn't do anything like that. The full-blown version, photos and videos. Whenever I talk about this, it's also videos. So,
right. Sandy Spitzik, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Thanks. Can you have the image in both libraries?
Only by duplicating it. And you're going to see that I have some of mine are duplicated here. If I go, so I have my shared library, I have my personal library, and then I can look at both libraries. When I'm looking at both, let me zoom in here a little bit. You're going to see that, because I'm playing around with this, there's Beth and I, and it's duplicated. One of them is in the personal or the shared. That's the 2 little silhouettes there. And this one's in my personal. That's the only way that you can do it. But really, I don't see any reason outside of me kind of playing around with it. There's really no reason to have one in a personal and a shared unless you want to have 2 different edits. You know, maybe you want to make one black and white and one not. That would be a reason why you might want to do that. Or when you share it in that shared library, someone else could delete it. So you have to be a little careful. You want to keep that as a backup. You could do it that way too. But be careful with that, because all of a sudden you're going to end up with, you know, a million photos And if you're not organized, then it's it can get unwieldy in your photos.
So with that question, and Mitch, I'll get to you next. With that, if you delete an album, I'm sorry, if you delete an image from a shared library, or someone who you've shared it with deletes an image from a shared library, is it deleted completely?
It does.
Okay.
Yep. So you don't want to create a shared library with someone you don't trust. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting, because if I have, I've created shared libraries for different things that I do, different projects. If I delete the image from the shared library, it's not deleted from my library. So, but it is deleted if you're sharing with a person.
Because you are moving that photo into that library. It's not copying it. It's not duplicating it. You're moving it. So it's going from one to the other.
So that's when you're sharing with people. But if I'm doing it for my own, it does not delete it. So how? Okay.
Well, if you want to create a shared library just for your own purposes, like a personal and work, which would be another way of doing it. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to duplicate it. It's going
right, because I can see, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I can see where when you give someone the editing capabilities to delete it, how it can be removed completely from everything. All right. So with that, Mitch, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, so now I'm confused. If I share photos in a shared library and somebody edits those photos, is that editing the original photo in my main library?
Yeah, it is. So, well, like I was saying, if I have a photo, if I go back to my iPad here, this photo is in my shared library. We can see in the upper right-hand corner. This is in my shared library. If I edit this, it's going to, whoever I'm sharing this with is going to see the edited version. If I unedit it, it's a completely separate library, but it acts the exact same way as our other libraries, if that makes sense.
But what I'm saying is if you're in the shared library and the person edits that photo, I know it changes in the shared library, but does it change the original photo in your permanent library?
Well, it's not in your original library anymore because you moved it over to the shared library. It doesn't make a duplicate. So this photo here is not in my shared library. I'm sorry. This photo here is not in my personal library. It's in my shared library. I click on this. It says move. This photo is not in my shared library. It's in my personal library.
Okay, so to avoid that, can you
duplicate it?
Copy and paste, or duplicate and duplicate? Okay.
Duplicate the photo.
And then if you do that and you run the duplicate photo, new duplicate photo deal that Apple has put in the software, is it going to?
It will find those.
One of those.
Yep.
It'll find those. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And I think Marty just may have solved the equation for everybody. Marty, can you unmute yourself and make your comment?
I doubt I solved anything because nothing more before. You've been talking about shared libraries. It used to be that we could not move things from a library to a different library. So the language that I'm asking about is shared libraries and shared albums are different, right?
Are different. Completely different.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about libraries, not albums.
Correct.
Okay.
Think of a shared library. When we'll end it with this. A shared library is just like your personal library. It is just, it's basically like what she was saying. I can have a personal library. I can have a work library. This is how Lightroom works, if I'm correct, right? So we can now do that, a little bit of that with this. It is a same, I can delete, edit, all that stuff. It's just two different libraries. If I go to my Finder here and I go to my pictures, you're not going to see it here. Let's go to downloads. There we go. Pictures. I have my photos library. We know that this is where it is stored. Well, the shared library is stored in iCloud, but basically it'd be almost like I have two different libraries here. And I'm just switching between them.
Great. I get it. Totally. Okay. We still have a couple of questions. Alan, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, is there a way to me to prevent the shared library recipient from making any changes to the image? Or once I give it to them, then they can do whatever they want with it?
They can do whatever they want with it once you share that library. So, really, you don't want to create a shared library for an event, anything like that. You want to create a shared library for, like in my case, I created with Beth, because this is lifelong kind of thing. It's not like I can just say, I only want to share this event. I only want to share this trip. That is what shared albums are used for. Libraries are for, we've all, have it to where I take pictures, and Beth just asked me, when we were at that Windmill Island thing, she's like, I'd love to have those photos. So I'm like, oh, this is a great time for me to turn on shared library. And I turned it on and just moved the photos over the shared library. So now they're in her photos. I don't have to create an album or anything like that. All I have to do is, if she wants to see a photo, I can just move it into the shared library. So you want to have it with trusted people, because they're going to have access. It's not an event specific album.
But if she changes that album, then it's changed in your library as well. I mean,
exactly. If she changes that photo,
can you revert to the original?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. We're going to let you go on, and I'll tackle some of these questions that are coming in, because I know you have something else to cover. All right.
Yeah. All right. So this is actually, I was going to talk a little bit about Preview. Preview is like the go-to app. It's the jack of all trades. It really is a powerful app. And when you open up a photo, by default, it goes into the Preview app. So there it is in my Preview app. And from here, what I'm able to do is rotate it. I can annotate it. I can crop it, do all kinds of stuff. It works with PDFs and that kind of thing. But here's my selling kind of thing. We're going to have a class on the Preview app. So I'll just show you a couple things here with it, essentially, and then I'm going to show you my favorite tip, something that I use on a daily basis with photos. So I'll show you that after this. But with the Preview app, if you have a photo that is not in the Photos app and you need to crop it or anything like that, basically what you use is you use the Preview app for that. And you're even able to export this out, and you can change the format of it. So I can change this into a PNG if I wanted to. PNG is good for web. JPEGs are great for web. I can set the quality of it. And then all I have to do is just export it out, and it exports anything that I've changed with this. So the Preview app is a really nice, basic photo editor kind of thing. I'm not going to be able to do any levels or anything like that, but it does do some really good basic image editing. But let's go on to my favorite, the thing that I use on a regular basis. So what I'll do is I will go and find an image on the web. I use Unsplash for my website or something like that. And they're, 2 megabytes. They're huge. We can't have a 2 megabyte file on the web. This is what slows down a website. We gotta compress that thing and make it nice and small so it delivers really fast. And what I used to do is I used to use an app called Acorn, which is like a Photoshop kind of thing. Lightroom will do it. There's Affinity Pro. There's all kinds of programs that will do that. But for basic conversion, if I need to convert something from a PNG into a JPEG, or I just want to compress it and make it smaller, it's kind of a pain in the butt to go and open up the app, then go and drag that in there, then go and compress it. There's an easier way if you're using Mac OS, Big Sur and Ventura. I think Big Sur was the last one. This is relatively new. So if you're using Mac OS Monterey, you're not going to be able to do this. So let's go over to, where's my, Where's my photos? Let's go open up a. So I have this photo here. And what I would like to do is compress this. Or maybe what I'd like to do is convert this. Well, here's a raw file. What I'd like to do is convert that into a JPEG. I don't want to open it up in an app or anything like that. If you control click on it to get to our contextual menu, what you're going to see down at the bottom here are quick actions. And if we go over to the right, depending on what you have selected, so this is contextual aware. So I have a photo selected, which means I'm able to convert the image. When I select this, I can select my format. And I use this daily. And I can say, well, how large is it? I want to make it large. I don't need to preserve the metadata. I want to rip all the location data and all that out of there. And now all I have to do is convert this to a JPEG. And we have my large file there. This one is 379K. The original, 19 megabytes. And if we open them up side by side, I'm going to, and of course, this is through Zoom. So there's the original. Can hardly tell the difference, but boy, did it save a lot of space. So if you need to send something, or put something on the web, anything like that, you always want to compress it, and it's super simple. Control click, quick action, convert. You can see here, this one's actually telling the size because it's a JPEG. So 46 kilobytes, that's really small. That thing is going to be like teeny tiny. I generally will use JPEG, and I try to get it about 150 to 200K, maybe 300 for web, but it depends on how you want to use it. But anyway, this is a great way to compress and convert. If you have a ping, which are generally larger, JPEG is a great format. You can convert it into a JPEG and you're going to save space. Now, it is not lossless, which means it is going to, if you were to look at it under a microscope, you will see a difference. But for web and things like that, it really works well. And thank you. Somebody said that, Jerry said that quick actions are available on Monterey. I didn't realize that, so thank you. But that is probably my favorite thing, and it is a time saver for me because I used to use different apps to do that, and you can set up actions in Photoshop and all that. But when you just need to do something real simple, that's a perfect way to do it. I'll end with sharing folders. I mentioned this in the description, and let's say you wanted to share a folder of images. So I have, let's go and create a folder here. Let's try it again here. New folder. It's not letting me, recents, that's why. So let's go to my desktop here. I have these photos here. And what I'd like to do is share these photos with someone. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into a folder. An easy way to put images or even documents, this does work with documents as well, is select them all. And then I love using contextual menus. If you hold the control key down, you're going to see the first option here is new folder with selection. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to create a new folder with those images, and then all I have to do is name it. So I just go images. So now I have this folder with all those images. Okay, now what I'd like to do is I would like to share this with someone. Super simple to do with the Messages app. You can imagine all you have to do, if I wanted to share this with Abigail, I just drag this folder. I can set if I want to send a copy or if I want to share this, being that this folder is in iCloud. What this will do is this gives me the option to set if she just gets a copy of it, or if she can see the originals. So if you're collaborating with someone, you might just want to share the folder like Dropbox style. This is the way that you could do it. The folder does have to be in iCloud. My desktop is using iCloud. So I'll show you what happens when you don't do it using iCloud. So it's being that this folder is in iCloud, it's on my desktop, I can easily sit here and just say, okay, I want Abigail to collaborate. Here are the pics. And now what it's doing is it's sharing that folder. If Abigail were to, you're going to see it change the icon. It's a shared folder. Abigail can now access that folder. So it just turns it into a shared folder. Super simple way to do it. You don't have to use email or anything like that. Again, of course, they have to be Apple users. You know, this is keeping people in the Apple ecosystem, of course. But now let's say that you're not using iCloud. So I'm going to go to downloads here, and we'll just go with these folder photos here, and replace and photos. So I have this. This is not an iCloud. So what happens when you try to share this one? Because it's just a folder on your computer. You can't share a folder on your computer. It has to be an iCloud, Dropbox, OneDrive, something like that. Well, when you go and share this one, what it's going to do is compress it. And then what she will get is a zip file. Now, it might be so small that it doesn't have to compress it. But basically, she's going to get this folder. She opens up her messages, and she'll be able to get those photos. It is a copy. She doesn't have access to this photos folder here. It is a copy. So if you wanted to send something to someone without collaborating or anything like that, this is a great way of doing it. So
even if they're on a different ecosystem, you said.
Yes. Yep. So if you have, you have a friend on Windows, this would be a way that you could do it. Mm-hmm.
I don't have any friends on Windows. Okay. Okay.
Beth is on Windows in the other room.
I'm sorry, Beth.
Yes.
All right. Okay. I want to say that Ed Adams put a very interesting, good comment into the chat. So if you have the chat open, you might want to read that. It actually answers a question about something we were talking about. Can you see that, Dan? Ed Adams?
Adams.
You can't. So here,
there
Ed,
it is up at the top.
yeah.
You can opt to get a notification, that one?
Yes.
Okay. So what Ed asks is you can opt to get a notification when someone deletes images from the shared library. He's saying this. This is great.
Yes, he's saying this.
With the toggle available in the shared library heading. Okay. When an image is deleted, the person who originally shared the image has the option of moving the image to their personal library. Oh, that's awesome. Great. Thank you, Ed.
Yeah, greatly appreciate that.
Told you I need to attend that class on photos.
All right. All right. All yours.
All right. Well, that's basically what I have. Like I say, my favorite tip is the one that I convert images all the time, and it works. It just works great. And I'm pleased to hear that it works on Monterey on up. So that's awesome. But the Photos app is very powerful. You can do a lot with it. And with iCloud, you can share your folders. It works really, really well. And you can use drag and drop in the Messages app. So, anyone have any questions?
Yeah, that's good. If you have questions, please, you can raise your hand, or you can put your questions in the chat. And I think not even Alan, Alan, Mitch, go ahead.
Yes. Can you go over again that your favorite feature, how you get that up?
Yeah. Basically what you do, let me close my windows here, is you can select, let me just duplicate this. Let's just say I have all these photos here, and I want to compress these, convert them, however you want to look at it. You just select them. So I have all those selected. And then if you control click, this is how you can get your contextual menu. You're going to see take quick actions. And from here, I can create a PDF out of it. I can rotate them. But again, my favorite is I can convert them. You can even remove the background. But convert image is an awesome little tool. I don't want to preserve the metadata. I like to rip the location and all that information out of there and put it on the web. So, people don't need to dig into that stuff. Now, again, this is how I use it for my website. So of course I don't want to have that, but if you're sharing with someone that you trust, you don't have to rip out the metadata. And then what you can do is set what size you want it to be, what the format is, and then convert it. And it's going to convert all those. There they are. And we can see they're quite a bit smaller. It went, basically it's 10% of what it was.
Gerald Gifford, did that answer your question?
These photos are just in a loose album, Gerald. They're just not in photos or anything like that. So if someone sends you a photo, let's say, Sheeta sent me some photos for the classes or whatever. And let's say I wanted to, she already did all the work, but let's, say that she didn't, what I would be able to, I need to compress this to put it on the web as an example. Or if I put it in Keynote, kind of thing. And I don't need a big file in Keynote. What, all I have to do is just, she sent it to me, it's in a folder. All I have to do is just go to quick actions, convert image, and I can make it smaller. I can, I don't have to be, even though this is a JPEG, I can keep it a JPEG. All I want to do is just compress it so it's smaller. So then my Keynote isn't, huge. So it makes it more efficient. So then when I use transitions and all that, it works good.
I have a question
Okay,
about
now
that. Gerald, you have, go ahead, Mitch.
I went to my library and I selected 3 photos and I hit Control click and I get information. I don't get anything that says.
You're not in the Photos app.
Okay.
So this does not work in the Photos app.
So where are you doing this?
This is just in a folder, just a loose folder.
Finder. He's in the Finder window, Mitch.
Finder. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, the Finder. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Gerald. Okay, Gerald, I guess it answered
I
your
just
question.
wanted to make sure whether we were in photo or regular photos or a regular folder. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Now
Nope.
I
In the
know.
Finders. Nope.
Now
I'm just
I
in the
know.
Finder.
Thank you.
Because I don't want to keep these images in my Photos app is my personal, that's where I keep all my personal photos. I don't want to keep all my web images and all that kind of stuff. Or the Keynote images like what Sheeta sends me. I keep those in a folder. So that's, this works great for that kind of stuff, but not for the Photos app. So yes, in the Finder.
Okay.
Finder folder.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Gerald. All right. Now, for my question is, when you compress those images, what's the quality?
I haven't really run. I haven't done a pixel peep kind of thing where you actually go and compare. But for me, it works. I just choose the large generally, and I have not seen it works perfect for what I need it for. Of course, you're going to want to, if you're going to print something, you're going to want to, might not want to do it. It all depends on what you're using it for. In my case, I'm using it for web. I don't need to have the large. Keeps a good quality, but if I go small, it's horrible. So you can experiment.
Yes. Yeah. So you might want to be aware of that and what your end needs are, your end use before you compress, if you want to compress. All right. So with that, I thank everyone for all of your questions, all of your interaction. It's always great.
Go
ahead.
I forgot about this. Here's your bonus tip in mail, because I've seen people do this. When you send them a picture in mail, you are able to set the size. So since we're talking about images, if I send this, it's going to be 207K. That's the actual size. Let's put a larger one in here. This is going to be 1.2 megabyte. A lot of emails won't send over 5 megabyte. And if I put 5 photos in here, it's not going to send it. So what do? Well, Apple Mail has a nice little thing here where I can say large, 211K. Again, depending on what you're going to be using it for, if someone just looking at these photos, this is going to be fine. but if you're going to be printing it, maybe you do need to separate them. But mail also gives you the ability to change your resolution, the quality. So
And
that's it. I'll end with that one.
Okay, and be careful with that as well, because I have seen I've experienced where when you reduce the size, it does reduce the quality greatly. So
Absolutely.
Again, yeah,
and more or less, I wanted to more say that because people have sent me stuff not realizing that it compressed it. So then, because sometimes what it'll do is it'll just go to large by default. I don't know why. And then, so I'll have to go and ask, like, can you send a larger file and just go up under here and, actual size. So it's more or less just be aware of it,
Gerald made a quick comment about mail's large message option in settings. Do you want to quickly show that in case someone needs to send large images?
Yeah, that is kind of like mail drop. And that is, where is that? I don't use it. Do you know where that is, Sheeta?
Yeah, I know it's there. Automatically try sending, because
So
I have it set up completely. Let me see if I can quickly find it online. Hello, sorry.
And what we're looking for here is when you send a large file via mail, if it's a really large file, what it'll do is it'll put it into iCloud. Because most mail servers can't handle it. Gmail, it's not an Apple thing. It's a Gmail, Outlook, all of them. They all have limitations on how large a mail can be, an attachment.
Go to account. And the setting is right there, checked down lower.
Right there it is.
Right there.
Yep. So what this is going to do by default, thank you. What this is going to do by default is send large attachments using mail drop. So what'll happen is if I send a large file, let's just say it's 50 megabytes, that's too large for mail. What it'll do is it'll move it into iCloud, and then it'll create a link for that, and then the person will get that link, and then they're going to be able to access it through iCloud. So it's all automatic.
All right, great. And with that, we're going to end that. Thank you, Hank. I greatly appreciate that. All right, everyone, copy the chat file. Or get a copy of the chat file, because there's some good information in there. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining us today, and happy holidays. All yours, Dan.
Yes, thank you. And I just have this in my slideshow, so not that I need to skip over that. I don't need that. There we go. All right. So I thought what I would do is our classes start in January. We're going to take the next 2 weeks off. Our classes start in January, and Jeff Bohr is going to be talking about macOS Ventura. So you want to make sure.
You have the incorrect date on that. It is January the 7th.
Oops, sorry, January 7th.
That's all right. All right. So
so everyone ignore the date. It's January 7th.
And trust, we'll send out plenty of notices, so you don't have to worry about missing the date. All right, thank you.
So on that note, thank you, and thanks for your support, and everyone have a good holiday, and thanks.
Well, can you unmute yourself and say whatever you want to say? Well, not whatever. Say hi. Say
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Dan.
Happy holidays.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Happy holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Good show.
Have a good holiday season.
Fantastic.
All right, be
next
well.
week.
Take lots of pictures.
Of course.
Rest
Be well.
Be happy.
Nice hat, Dan.